Welcome to Equal Entertainment. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. Billie Eilish has lost 100,000 Instagram followers since a Variety magazine article outed her. The Grammy Award winner confirmed the accidental nature of her coming out. Eilish says she didn't want to make a big deal about her sexual identity, and she recently told a reporter that she thought it was obvious that she's attracted to women. The star has more than 110 million followers, and that number dropped with her interview with Variety. Hootie is going Hollywood. Darius Rucker now has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Rucker's Grammy Award-winning band Hootie and the Blowfish has sold more than 25 million albums worldwide. He released his first country album in 2008. He went on to have 4 #1 albums on the Billboard Country Chart. Rucker will reunite with the group in 2024 for their Summer Camp with Trucks tour. Rucker has raised more than $3.5 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and he co-chaired a campaign to build a children's hospital in Charleston, South Carolina, his hometown. The 70s rock group Kiss has played its last live concert, but the band wants to keep the music playing even after Paul Stanley's anti-trans rant earlier this year, in which he said teaching trans kids to accept and love themselves was normalizing, quote, a sad and dangerous fad. The group's new digital avatars performed God Gave Rock and Roll to You after their last show at Madison Square Garden. The avatars were developed by George Lucas's visual effects company. Kiss frontman Gene Simmons was also called out for saying that Adam Lambert killed his career by coming out as gay. MUTT is a new film about a trans man named Fenya who unexpectedly reconnects with 3 people from his past. It won the Special Jury Prize for acting at the Sundance Film Festival. Lio Mehiel gives an amazing performance as Fenya. The film speaks to the trans experience. Hi, welcome Lio Mehiel and Vuk Lungulov-Klotz, director and star of the Sundance breakout film MUTT. Thank you for joining me here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yay.
Of course.
Great
Well,
to be
yeah, I'm glad you're here. I know this is a question that you've answered before, but for our audience who may not be aware, I would love for you, Vuk, to chat a bit about the impetus for MUTT.
I mean, I made it for a few different reasons. First of all, out of like deep necessity. There is not a lot of trans representation in the media, and there is not a lot of trans masculine representation. So I, for my entire childhood and my adult life, just really wanted to meet a character like Fenya and to like hang out and see myself reflected on screen and see a lot of my community that I find incredibly beautiful and complicated and imperfect reflected on screen just as another human story. So that was a deep need, and I think a lot of people were feeling it. There's a lot of scenes in the movie that are, kind of first timers, so that was really exciting. But I also wanted to talk about the in-betweenness of a lot of things. What's it like to have an identity that is not one thing or the other, where someone that looks Latino but fits in different places, or is trans and can identify with femaleness and maleness depending on their history and what they present as now. Just kind of talking about the complexity that everything is gray and nothing is black and white.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you. And Leo, would you talk a bit about when you first read the script or when you were first approached about the project and your reaction to that?
Yeah. I've been an actor for a long time, and being a trans actor, it up until this point of reading Mutt, I had never read a feature script where I could be the lead character and I could bring so much of myself to the table. And I wouldn't have to convince casting or a producer that they should think differently about this part and maybe consider someone who's trans. Fenya and the story that Vuk wrote were just, so much of my life on the page. And it was so exciting for me to, dream about and think about playing this character before I was, cast and given the opportunity to do so, because Fenya is so much more than his gender identity. Like, he has a mission in this film to get a car to pick up his dad and
Yeah.
prove to his dad that he is not a mess up, and his life is thriving in New York City. And that's such a human desire, to sort of show your parents that you're doing all right as a young adult. And then also these unexpected encounters that he has throughout the film with his ex-boyfriend, with his little sister, but yeah, so much of it goes beyond his gender identity. And as a trans actor, you know, a lot of what I have been seeing up until this point are characters written where their primary motivation is coming out or is sharing some aspect of their gender. And so it's really cool to have been given this opportunity to play something that is just a human being going through a really difficult and challenging day.
And Leo, for you as an actor, I mean, Fenya goes through changes, but they're all in this compacted amount of time. Would you talk about the challenge of doing that?
Yeah, I mean, actually, in a weird way, it's easier as an actor to have this compacted storyline because you are always dropping into a moment, no matter what you're shooting, that you can very easily wrap your head around. When there is a lot of time that passes through a film, you have to do a lot of extra work to figure out what hasn't been seen, what are the ways in which the character has changed, and how can we sort of bring that into this new moment. Whereas with Mutt, because it was all 24 hours, you know, we didn't have the privilege of shooting in order, which, you know, big budget movies sometimes get to do. We're a very small community based film. Um, but even though we couldn't shoot in order, it was always sort of just at the tip of your tongue, like, oh, right, okay, 2 hours ago, this thing happened in
Mhm.
his life. I can sort of sink into that in a way that's manageable. And, you know, because it was my first time being the lead actor in a film, it felt kind of like a cosmic gift that I was able to, one, play a character that is so close to who I am, do so under the leadership of Vuk, who is, you know, also trans and also an artist, and I don't have to explain so much of myself. And then the final sort of piece of luck was, yeah, it's 24 hours. It's just all right now happening. So the invitation for me as an actor was, how present can I be? How much in the moment can I just embrace what's going on, because I don't have to do calculus of getting from here to there. I could just be right here. So that was a really big gift.
Yeah, incredible. Thank you. And then, Vuk, would you talk a bit about there are loads of microaggressions woven into this film, which is something that, you know, as a Latino, as a trans person, that Fenya has to deal with, and you know, people in the world have to deal with. Would you talk about that? Because I think you did a really good job of weaving those in throughout this film.
Thank you. Yeah, death by a thousand cuts, right? I think sometimes you don't see the abusiveness or the aggression that the world has against you because it's all this minute things, but the person that is receiving them is like constantly having to deflect them and fight back. So I wanted to show that. And to me, it's like I didn't have to sit down and think like, how am I going to do this? Being trans is that, and I'm a white Tino, so obviously I pass as I'm a white person. So, but it's it never stops. It's always there. People are always always want to attack you. They don't see it that way, but everybody kind of reacts the same way. And I I've had some people that aren't trans say like, why did you do that to your character? They spent so much time uh, not protecting themselves, but reacting to aggression or like explaining what being trans is. And it really is just that way. Like that is how reality is. You explain things every day and you have to defend your identity every day. So I just wanted to show reality the way I experience it and the way a lot of people also experience it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
I,
you.
I
Yeah.
actually want to say something about that because it's interesting. When I talk about Mutt, I talk about it like, oh, Fenya's primary motivation is not his gender identity. He's not having to sort of
Mm.
explain
Yeah.
himself. And then we do get reactions from cis people being like, wow, you did such a great job of explaining what it's like to
Oh,
be trans and showing us in an accessible way what that's like. And as you were speaking, Vuk, I sort of realized like, oh, wow, when a story about a trans person is written by a trans person, it captures reality in a way that doesn't feel didactic to
Mm.
yeah.
the other trans person on set, me acting out this character. It never felt like I was explaining myself in a way that was untrue to my lived experience.
You can watch the Advocate channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate channel, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for watching.